Welcome back into Talking Fitchburg. Joining me this afternoon is one of my favorite reporters of all time. It's Scott Girard from the Fitchburg Star. Scott, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, and that's a very special honor, Jeremy. I appreciate
I don't say that to just any reporter, okay, Scott? So let's be
that.
clear on that. We're always thankful that you're able to help us out with this kind of breakdown, what you see, and kind of gives us a good look into the paper on what you'll be reporting. And we had a very busy council meeting. And I don't want to hold us up here too much, but basically, if we want to start up on the TID 13 talk.
Yeah. So it was a busy meeting, and there were a lot of close votes. But one thing that was unanimous was the council's approval of the new tax increment finance district up in Uptown. So, as Mayor Gonzalez put it, it's going to bring the first major corporate tenant up in Uptown off Lacey Road. So that's a pretty big deal. The company that's going to be moving out there, according to the project plan, is called Phoenix, and they do some work with neutrons, and it's a very science-heavy business, well-paying jobs according to the project plan, and they expect to grow pretty quickly here in Fitchburg. They're building a lab manufacturing facility out here first, and they expect that to be operational next year. And then they're going to build what they refer to as a global headquarters the year after that they hope to open in 2020 here. So really centralizing their operations here in Fitchburg. And the tax increment district is expected to bring in some other commercial tenants and other types of development up in Uptown. So it'll be very interesting to see what goes in up there. There's about $10 million in incentives going to Phoenix to get them here, including about $2 million in just developer incentives, and then some other money contributing toward parking and things like that. So construction could be coming up there soonish. Some Phoenix executives mentioned that they hope to be working on the ground by November for phase one of their project. So it'll be interesting to watch the construction up there for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. Nice to see something getting in there in that area, and it sounds like a pretty fascinating company from what I've heard. So, looking forward to sharing more information as they come into the Fitchburg area, and it sounds like it's going to be a good thing. All right, we'll move on now to the other part of the meeting, and you wanted to talk a little bit about the North Stoner Prairie and the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, so they really go hand in hand. It was this was the most substantial part of the meeting. There were a couple dozen people in attendance there to either talk about it or register about it, and there were another few dozen that had registered, people who were not able to come to the meeting but had slips that registered. It was very contentious among the council and alders, and all of the votes related to it were close. The first thing was a rezone request for a plan to build 182 apartment buildings. On a parcel in the North Stoner Prairie neighborhood. It's about a 6-acre parcel. That plan has drawn a lot of opposition from some people in the nearby neighborhoods, including a petition, and it had been actually tabled at Plan Commission in July. It ended up, the council took it up anyway. A couple alders requested to take it up. The developer said he was not expecting that, so he didn't have the presentation there because he was already working on a new plan, but asked that they not deny the zoning because he didn't want to start over with all of the process for submittals and things like that. But the council did decide that given the neighborhood opposition and everything, they voted 5-3 to deny the rezone for that project. And that kind of related directly to a later conversation about the comprehensive plan. I'll try to get through this as quickly and as simply as I can. But so the comprehensive plan can be changed once a year. in around 2013, the North Stone and Prairie Neighborhood Plan labeled this parcel and limited it to medium density. Last year, the plan was changed to allow medium or high density. A lot of neighbors were unaware of that change and were very unhappy with that change once they found out about it, feeling that the developer and the city went behind their backs. So they have spoken out pretty loudly since earlier this year when the developer presented a plan. His goal with it, he has said, is to use the high density apartments on that small parcel to allow for some, quote, attainable housing at around or a little under $300,000 price point. And that's something the council has certainly been advocating for. A lot of alders have spoken about the need for affordable housing. So his goal was to use the apartments on one small part of the parcel to help pay for that attainable housing on the other part. But the residents, again, were very upset about that and have spoken out about that. And so they requested the comprehensive plan be changed back to only allow medium density. And basically, most of Tuesday night's debate was whether or not to do that. There were questions about whether it was necessary because of the plan's language that said medium or high density. But the alders who ended up voting to change it back to medium density said really it was a matter of trust and rebuilding trust with the residents. The alders who voted against that change said it really would limit flexibility and potentially close off possibilities of development there. The other complication was there were a few other comprehensive plan amendments, a couple related to the Orchard Point development, that needed to go through and could not be voted on separately. So kind of they had to vote on all of this as a package, but there was one controversial one, and so it really was an interesting discussion to follow. What ended up happening was a 4-4 vote. Jason Gonzalez had to break the tie and voted to with the 4 that wanted to bring it back to medium density. And so what that requires now is it actually has to go back to Plan Commission because they had approved, or they had suggested denying the change back to medium density and leaving it as medium or high density. And according to the city attorney, the Plan Commission and Common Council have to pass basically the same ordinance. So it has to go back to Plan Commission now. It's not technically over, but it seems pretty clear where the council is going with this. So the next step will be seeing if the Plan Commission follows through on its end to vote for the same thing. It was very controversial, though, as I'm sure you can imagine, with a 4-4 vote, and a lot of just citizen interest. A lot of people were there to see how this went and stayed until the wee hours, almost midnight, to see how it turned out.
I appreciate the breakdown of that. I know that there's a lot of information in there, and Scott, we appreciate it very much that it took the time to do that. You can always head over to our website, fitchburgwi.gov, click on Fact TV, the government channel, and you'll find the Common Council meeting from September 11th, and you can watch back through that and see it. It would just be if you watch that in combination with what Scott writes on it, I think it'll all come together. Scott, we appreciate your time. We'll catch up with you here in a couple of weeks.
That sounds great. Thanks for having me, Jeremy.
All right. We'll take a quick break. You're watching Talking Fitchburg.